I'm Kathy with a K.
And I'm Kathy with a C.
And this is Killer Destinations.
Today's destination is East Lake, Ohio. With a population of almost 18,000 residents, it sits along the southern shoreline of Lake Erie. Located in Lake County, the area became a wealthy Cleveland summer home retreat in the 1880s, and East Lake officially became a city in 1951. The city made national news in August of 2003 when a generating plant went offline due to a high demand and caused the single largest blackout in North American history. It caused 50 million people to lose power in 8 U.S. states and southeastern Canada. Today, East Lake offers close proximity to Lake Erie and the Chagrin River, and is also known for kayaking, boating, fishing, and scenic park spaces. It is the home to what is purported to be the largest permanent display of American flags in the world along Lakeshore Boulevard. But in 2011, one young suburbanite surprised the community when it was discovered that they were a wolf in sheep's clothing.
East Lake, Ohio was a great place to grow up. It was on the smaller side, but it was just 15 minutes from the mean streets of Cleveland with big city amenities and 3 professional sports teams. Kathy asked me what they were. Baseball, Cleveland Guardians. They're no longer the Cleveland Indians, they're the Cleveland Guardians. The football team is the Cleveland Browns, and the basketball team is the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Oh, lovely.
I know. Just throwing it out there if anyone cares. And I hope I'm right about that last one. I'm not 100% sure.
Maybe they're the Guardians as well.
Exactly. Can't be Cavalier these days. East Lake was an affluent community, and because of the size of the town, the high school was small enough that everyone knew each other because Cathay only had a few hundred people in each high school graduating class. Now, Patrick Sabo, who was the class of 1988, was very well liked in school. He was known as the class clown, he had a lot of friends, but while friends and classmates planned to go to college or get a job after graduation, Patrick had set his sights on something else. He wanted to go into the military. He joined the U.S. Army and was incredibly successful, and he actually, Kathy, was able to become an elite Army Ranger. He lived in many different places through his lengthy stint in the military, including overseas, but when it came time to retire, he returned to the place he'd always called home, East Lake, Ohio. Once Patrick arrived back in East Lake, he went through a messy divorce that wound up costing him a lot of money. And understandably, he actually kind of struggled a bit to assimilate back to life as a civilian. And so as a result, he got into some minor dust-ups here and there that resulted in the police being called, but it was never anything major. And also when he got back, Kath, he joined a group chat on Facebook that included some of his old high school buddies, so it was really an easy way to connect with some of his friends and acquaintances that he hadn't seen or talked to for a long time. But then on the Friday night of Memorial Day weekend 2011, one of the people on the Facebook chat asked him if he had time to meet up with a man named Al at a local restaurant. Al had a potential job for Patrick, and even if he wasn't interested in the job, Patrick would still get a free meal out of it. And because, like we said, he had a bad divorce and didn't have a lot of extra cash, the mention of a free meal pretty much sealed the deal for him.
It would have for me. Bob's Big Boy Hamburger, please.
But Kath, the job offer wasn't what Patrick was expecting. The two of them sat down and chit-chatted while they waited for their food to arrive. And then finally, Al got to the point and made Patrick an offer he said he hoped he wouldn't refuse. Al told Patrick the job paid $50,000. And all Patrick had to do was go down to Georgia and kill a man.
According to a 2020 episode of Dateline, it was Patrick's former classmate, Christine, who'd asked him to meet with Al, and Al actually turned out to be Christine's father. According to Papa Al, the man he wanted killed was Christine's former husband, David Metter. So basically, Al told Patrick, listen, I'm a retired local law enforcement officer. I served 26 years on the job. I know it's crazy that I'm asking you this. I do it myself, but I suffered a stroke, and now my hands tremble and I can't fire my weapon. In fact, I'd love to kill that son of a bitch myself. So, of course, Patrick was like, what the hell is going on? He couldn't believe that Christine knew what her dad was doing because she was a total goody two-shoes in high school. So in high school, she was quiet, she was smart, she was nice to everybody. She participated in marching band, theater, and choir, which everyone in the universe knows those are the smartest kids.
And the goody two-shoeist kids.
Totally, the goody two-shoeiest.
Exactly.
100%.
Don't drink, don't smoke. What do
you
do?
So anyway, Christine was really known, honestly, for staying out of trouble in high school.
Okay, and so here's a story that I heard. Christine really was the straight-laced, I'm not going to ever do anything wrong kind of gal. And when they had senior ditch day, all the kids had gotten together. And remember, it's not a lot of them. And I'm sure, obviously, it's not going to be all of them anyway. But a group of them got together and were trying to plan what they were going to do, where they were going to go and whatnot. And Christine found out. And not only did she not go on senior ditch day, but she told the principal when and where they were going.
No.
So everybody got busted for it.
Oh, Christine.
I know. That's just, if you don't want to go, don't go.
No.
But don't be a tattletale.
Don't be a tattletale.
I mean, snitches
get stitches. Dude, it's real. It's real. Can I tell like a ditch day story about my older brother?
Yes, because we're bringing up your older brother later.
Oh, that's good to know. So when he was a senior, okay, now my brother, when he was in 8th grade, got perfect attendance award, and he got the same thing in high school. Okay.
Unbelievable,
exactly.
But not surprising.
He was not in choir, he was not in theater, and he was not in marching band. But
he could have been.
He could have been. No, he was a really good tennis player. But anyway, so his senior year, The Who was in town, so everybody wanted to go. And so the deans at our high school were on freaking high alert because they knew that, 98.6% of the senior class was going to go to this concert. And it was a big deal. Like, no one is going to the Who concert. Everybody will get detentions, blah, 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 blah. No, it was a daytime concert.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, so my mother signed a note for my brother excusing him from class.
Did she knowingly
excusing him from school? She knowingly signed it.
Good for her.
Because he was such a good kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so anyway.
He was such a good potential theater kid.
Right. He was like a wannabe choir boy with no choir. But he was probably singing at that Who concert.
I bet he was.
Anyway, I thought that was a funny story. But yes.
So what happened?
But because it was an excused absence, he still got an award for attendance. Yes.
Did anybody get in trouble, or was that just,
a bunch of kids got in trouble. A bunch of kids ditched. A bunch of kids got in trouble. But my brother did not get in trouble.
Okay. And my mom would have signed that same permission slip.
Dude, my older brother could have come to me and I would have forged her signature.
And I was actually known for being able to forge my mom's signature. In fact, it was so good that when she died, the bank didn't catch on to it until Social Security ratted us out.
Oh my God. Oh, good times, good times.
Rest in peace.
Who needs e-signatures, for God's sake?
I know. You just need kids with something they really want to have happen.
For real. So after graduating at the top of her class, Christine adiosed out of Ohio for Texas, where she attended Rice University in Houston.
Which is super prestigious.
Yeah. No, it's a place to be reckoned with, ish. So Patrick, sitting there talking to Al, wondered if he was approached for this hit job because Eastlake was a small town and people knew that after he graduated, he went straight into the Army and became a ranger, meaning he was highly skilled with a gun. And I am assuming, Kathy, that Al, Christine's dad, thought they could be, hey, I'm in law enforcement, you're in the military, this is really serious, this guy's abusive, whatever.
We're brothers in arms.
Exactly, all that kind of stuff. So Patrick knew that the word on the street about him was that his divorce left him broke. And he figured that Al hoped he'd be willing to use his ranger skills to make a quick buck. So Patrick tells Al, listen, let me think about this for a couple days. I'll get back to you. So literally 2 days later, he does get back in touch with Al and he says, look, I'm interested, but I actually had someone else in mind to carry out the actual hit. I'll set it up. But I'm really freaking concerned about my Facebook conversations with Christine because, obviously now the FBI, the police, they're going to know we're connected. So, we got to
look
hire
at him as an Army Ranger and be like, okay.
Yeah, we got to hire somebody else to do the deed. And he said, listen, I know a guy from a local biker bar. His name is Vinny. He may or may not have some mob ties on the down low, but he's the real deal. And so Patrick winds up connecting Vinny and Al. And Al's like, nice to meet you, Vinny. Here's $3,000 down, and you get the rest when the job is complete. So Al said the plan was to kill David, his former son-in-law, on the way home from work to make it look like he was killed during a robbery. And yeah, we're in Ohio, but he now lives in Georgia, so that's where you got to go. And I want it to seem like a spur-of-the-moment tragedy rather than a planned hit or something done in the heat of passion. And then he's like, I get it, no problem. So he toddled on down to Georgia.
Okay, wait. Speaking of your older brother, I saw him this past weekend and we were talking about the podcast because he actually listens to it in order. And he said to me, and Kathy's older brother, he's very serious, but he's also very funny.
Super funny. And
we were talking about the podcast and the different ones that were coming up. And he made the comment when one of you guys says that someone toddled, he's like, it just cracks me up every time. So Kathy's big brother, this one's for you. All of our toddles dedicated to Kathy's brother.
Apparently he loves a good toddle. Anyway, so Vinny toddles on down to Georgia, but he ran into a big problem when he got there. He discovered David wasn't in Georgia. He was actually traveling for business and was in Florida for several days. But Vinny didn't want to postpone the hit. He spent $900 on a last-minute plane ticket and tracked David down, and he was staying at a hotel in Florida for some convention. So Vinny carries out the job and takes a picture as proof. And this photograph showed David lying on a hotel room bed with a bullet in his head and blood running down his face.
According to court records, just a few days later, so now we're in early June 2011, Patrick contacted Christine and he wanted to set up a meeting so that she, her father Al, and Vinny could meet because Vinny had proof that David had been killed and he wanted his money. Or caja.
Or dinero.
Or geld.
Or zlotys.
Or pesos.
Or francs.
Euros.
Dollars.
Okay, that's boring. I think we did well. Okay, so Christine told Patrick that she couldn't make the meeting due to scheduling issues, but Patrick was like, dude, Vinny's a scary guy. He wants you there because he wants to get paid. Whatever your scheduling issues are, you fix them and you be at this meeting. And so Christine eventually agreed, and so Patrick set up this meeting to take place basically in Vinny's car in an empty church parking lot, and it was in the middle of the week.
A church parking lot to discuss a hit. I do see irony.
I do too.
Vinny might have been Catholic. We don't know.
Actually, he might have been. So Al and Christine get there. Vinny's in his car. He's in the driver's seat. Patrick's in the passenger seat. Patrick gets out because he's like, la, la, la. I already know enough. I don't want to know anything more than I have to.
Like, basically, you guys have your conversation. I'm just going to go stand over here and not hear you.
Exactly. So Christine gets into the back seat, but instead of getting into the front seat that Patrick had just vacated, Al got into the back seat next to his daughter. And so, of course, Vinny at that time was like, I know he's a former cop.
Right. Is he packing heat?
Exactly.
Why is he sitting behind me?
Or does he have a gun?
Freaks me out. Or does he have a gun?
So Vinny's a crook. He thinks like a crook. He's freaking out.
Like, I hope that he doesn't shoot me in the back of the head.
Exactly. So Vinny's like, okay, where's the money? I took care of David. Your problem's over. I want the cash. And Christine was like, okay, I'm going to get it to you, but I just don't have it yet. She's like, I'm going to pay you with money from a life insurance policy on David. And as part of the divorce settlement, I'm still the beneficiary, but only for a couple more months. So that's why this had to be done so quickly. And he's like, let me see the policy. Like, let me see if what you're saying is true. And so Christine handed over the policy. So Christine had brought it with her to prove that she had this policy because, as Patrick had said to her, he's going to want proof you've got the cash. And she hands it to Vinny and he's looking at it and he's like, okay, you are the beneficiary, but this says the policy's 1.5 mil and you think you're paying me 50 grand? That price just went up to $100,000. And, I'm sure Christine's like, okay, I'm in a car with a guy who might have mob ties and he's a hitman. Sure.
Right.
100,000
Sounds
is yours.
good. Sounds fair. Thank you.
He could have said, I want half.
Yeah, seriously.
I would have said I wanted half. Vinny then walked Al and Christine through the job he'd done, right? He tells them about going to Georgia, finding David gone, his executive decision to get on a plane to go to Florida, his $900 last minute plane ticket, how he tracked David to his room, and then got inside the hotel room and killed David. And at this point, Christine says to Vinny, but you made the murder look like a mugging, right? And Vinny said, I shot him in the head, just like you guys wanted. So Vinny then said, okay, look, I've got a picture of David after I killed him to give you proof that I completed the job. So if you want to see it, let me know. And Christine was like, no, don't want to see it. But then muttered almost like to herself, he beat me and my children. But then Al, who of course, as we've said, is a former police officer, didn't hesitate to look at the picture because of course he'd seen plenty of crime scene photos during his career. And what he was most interested in hearing about were the details. But of course we have the problem, right? That the money was going to be paid based on a life insurance policy. And so Christine couldn't pay Vinny until the insurance company paid her, but the insurance company couldn't pay her until David's body was found and then given a death certificate. But since now David had been killed in a hotel room while attending a conference, it could be days before anyone looked for him. And so Vinny was pissed and he's like, look, you made it seem like you had the cash. You never told me there'd be a waiting period. And I better not get jammed up because of this, because if I do, I will find you. And I know where you live.
But then Vinny saw someone approaching out of the corner of his eye. And at first he thought it was Patrick because Patrick was sort of hanging on the perimeter of the parking lot, not wanting to hear anything. But it wasn't Patrick. Uniform and plainclothes officers suddenly swarmed the car and arrested everyone, including Patrick. So now all four of them are taken back to the station. And of course, everyone was put in separate interrogation rooms. So in a video from the State Line episode that we referenced previously, you could see Al's talking to one of the detectives and asking, why am I here? What's going on here? I don't understand why I've been arrested. What's going on? And the detective's like, you're being charged with conspiracy to commit aggravated murder in the first degree. And Al's like, well, wait a second. Who's been killed? Acting all surprised and innocent. And the detective's like, your former son-in-law. How does that sound? And then Al swiftly replied, well, he should be murdered.
I'm not sure that's the right answer.
I know, exactly. And after that, he said, I want a lawyer. And he stopped talking. Christine was interviewed, and when she was told that she was being charged with conspiracy to commit aggravated murder as well, she was like, I have no idea what's going on. I was just in the car because my dad asked me to go with him, but I have no idea what you're talking about. No, I didn't have my ex-husband killed. I knew nothing about this. It was all my dad. And so she was saying, I had no idea what happened until Vinny announced it and showed my dad the photo, which I didn't look at. And she's like, I'm innocent of all this. And if Vinny said anything to the contrary, he's lying. Why would I want to kill the father of my 4 daughters? But police were like, nope, you're lying. And we can prove it.
So, Kath, what had happened was a couple of weeks before David Metter was killed, a call came into 911 late on a Friday night. The caller asked to speak to someone in charge, and when they were asked what the emergency was, they said they'd just been offered $50,000 to commit murder. The caller's name was Patrick Sabo. Now, as we had said, Patrick grew up there, so the dispatcher actually recognized his name, not just because we'd said, he had a couple of minor run-ins, but because he'd gone to school with many of the officers and graduated from high school with the current chief of police, Larry Reich. So when they heard about Patrick's story, it just didn't make sense to them, but they also knew Patrick well enough to know that he wasn't making it up. So Patrick toddled down to the police station, that's number 2 for anyone who's counting, to speak with detectives. He went through the story with Detective Christopher Bowersox about texting with Christine on Facebook and how she'd been complaining about custody issues she was having with her ex-husband. Now, Patrick sympathized with her, right? Because he'd been through a rough divorce. And so he jokingly told Christine to save her money and hire a hitman, and then followed that comment with LMAO. Christine responded, LOL, and their conversation just ended. But then, Kath, it was only a matter of hours before Christine called him and asked him to have dinner with Al, her dad. And so as Patrick is relating this to the detectives, he said, it was during this meal that Al offered me $50,000 to kill his son-in-law, David. And so he's like, I told Al I'd need to think about it. But, as I left that restaurant, I was like, if I don't do something about this, Al might hire somebody else to take out David. And I can't live with that on my conscience. So that's why as soon as I got home, I called 911. And, for detectives, Kath, Patrick's story had so many details that they knew it was real. And that now meant that they were on a clock to find David. They needed to find out why his ex-wife and former father-in-law might want him killed. And, knowing Patrick might not have been the only person that Al approached about committing the murder, it was very clear to them David's life could already be in grave danger. So Patrick had some details that helped detectives track David down. He knew David's first and last name, that he lived in Georgia, which was about 700-800 miles south of Eastlake, and he had a photo of David.
So it turned out David Metter was a prominent businessman in the automotive industry and a devoted husband and a dad of 6. He lived in a nice house in an affluent area just a few miles north of Atlanta and had been married to a woman named Lonnie for about a year. Now, this was his second marriage. So together they had 6 children. He brought 4 into the marriage. She brought 2.
Should we sing the Brady Bunch theme song now?
I dare you.
I dare you.
No.
I double dog dare you. I triple dog
we'll
dare you.
We'll sing the end. That's the way they became the Brady Bunch. Isn't that how it went?
Uh-huh.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you for doing that.
Uh-huh. But they had the wrong division of sexes, by the way. Wasn't it 5 and 1? 5 girls, 1 boy here?
Yes.
So David is happily married with Lonnie, but 20 years prior, in 1992, David thought he and Christine would live together happily and forever. They met when they were students at Rice University, and they got married shortly after graduation. Their first daughter was born the year after they graduated, followed by 3 more daughters. And actually, the last 2 were twins, which, I don't know, that's kind of fun. I always did want twins, I have to say. Anyway, David was a hard worker and quickly became successful in the automotive industry. So he and Christine lived a nice life. They had a large home in an affluent area of Houston, but he was gone a lot. He had to travel a lot for work. So Christine was pretty much left raising the girls on her own and started to resent it. So at some point, she told David, look, this isn't working. I can't raise my daughters alone. I need to move back to Ohio to be near my parents. I need help. And she told him, there, I have family. I have friends close by. People could help and support me when you're traveling. So David was like, sounds great. We're going to move to Baltimore, Maryland. Extremely responsive to her needs, I'm hearing.
I think he answered exactly what she needed.
Exactly. But I have to say, they were only 300 miles away from her parents, which was significantly closer than Houston. Anyway, so they moved to Baltimore, Maryland, and Christine is angry. And as she is meeting new friends, she is not trying to hide her anger and resentment towards her husband. So the reason for the move to Baltimore was that David was promoted again. So he was gone from home even more than he was in the past. So Christine continued to struggle essentially as a single parent.
Totally.
And after 15 years of marriage, she'd had enough. And she's like, I want a divorce. I'm moving to Ohio and I'm taking our daughters with me.
So Kath, Christine moved back to Eastlake, and it was actually into the house she'd grown up in. Now, sadly, her mom had recently died from bone cancer, and she was one of those moms who did everything for her children. She only had daughters. She had 4 daughters, actually, I believe, just like Christine did. But unfortunately, Christine's daughters were unable to now be growing up with their grandmother. But Christine's dad, Al, was retired and wanted nothing more than to be a doting grandpa and help her raise the girls. And of course, because Christine was back in her hometown, she soon reconnected with some of her old high school friends and began rebuilding her life. But Kath, it got kind of ugly after Christine and David separated. She's living in Eastlake, Ohio, like we said, and she made it very difficult for David to see their daughters. According to an interview that David did with a blog called Dad's on Tap, Christine would constantly tell him that he was a horrible father, he should just jump out a window, and he was worth more to them dead than alive. And Kath, David then told the story to this blog that one time when Christine finally told him, you can come and see the twins, you can give them their birthday presents, he flies to Ohio. He'd bought them brand new bikes, so he puts them in front of the house so his girls would, open the door and see the bikes right away. But when he knocked on the door, Christine refused to open it. And all he could hear were his girls crying hysterically inside the house.
And Kath, I think he was paying a lot in child support.
He was paying $12,000 a month, so $3,000 a girl.
That's incredible.
It is incredible, and it tells you how much money he was making.
He was very successful, obviously.
Right, but that is, that's a lot of cash.
Pretty penny.
Yeah.
A lot of cash, a lot of dinero, a lot of zlotys.
A lot of Deutschmarks, a lot of euros, a lot of kaha.
A lot of francs, a lot of kaha. A lot of dollars.
We'll stop. Did we say pesos?
There was a gabillion pesos.
Now, the state of Maryland, of course, which is where David was residing and where Christine was still officially a resident, actually required a 1-year separation before someone was allowed to officially file for divorce. So it was actually more than 2 years before Christine and David's divorce was granted. However, a year after the divorce, this is when David meets Lonnie, they get married, and they move to Georgia to start their new lives together. And this made Christine apoplectic. One of my favorite words, by the way.
Because now her husband has the Brady Bunch.
Exactly. Now, despite all the roadblocks that Christine tried to throw in his way, David always made an effort to be present for his daughters and, made sacrifices when he needed to.
Because we say they're the Brady Bunch, but the girls still lived in Ohio.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, Kath, one of the things I also read in this Dad's on Tap blog is that David would go up there. So he's married to Lonnie, but he's going up there like every weekend, every other weekend, whenever he wasn't traveling to see his daughters and to be able to spend the weekend with them. But he didn't own a house up there or anything like that. So he stayed in an extended stay hotel to bring the girls in. And he was there so often that he said the people who owned that extended stay would decorate the room he was staying in with blankets and toys and cuddly things and movies so that when the girls came to the hotel to stay with David, they felt like they were at home.
Oh my God, that's so thoughtful.
I love small towns.
I love that. That's awesome.
So the other thing, though, Kath, is once David was settled in Georgia, he was able to get the girls to come out to visit during the summer. And he realized that when they were out there with him, there wasn't the tension or the drama or the anxiety that they experienced with their mom. So in 2010, this is a year before the hit was taken out on David, his oldest daughter, who was now 16, spent a summer in Georgia with her dad and her siblings. But when it was time for them to go home, the 16-year-old absolutely refused to get on the plane back to Ohio. She would not leave. And even though David knew that he could be arrested for allowing her to stay because he was breaching a custody agreement, he couldn't make her go. And sure enough, the police come a-knocking on his door. But after talking to the daughter, and because she was 16, she could articulate what was going on, the police actually didn't arrest David. And ultimately, he was given permanent custody of her. So as a result of him getting permanent custody, he and Lonnie then were emboldened and petitioned the court for primary custody of his 3 younger daughters. And he actually had a conversation with Christine on the phone and said, there's a high likelihood we're going to get custody of all the girls. And the police were like, yep, that's what pushed Christine over the edge to make sure that he was removed from their lives permanently. And the $1.5 million in life insurance was just the cherry on top.
So back to the murder for hire. Detectives are looking to protect David. They got to find him. So they do an investigation and they verify that, yep, this is the David we're looking for. Now we have to make sure he's safe. So they asked police in Georgia to check on him. So Gwinnett County Police Department sent officers to his house, and they basically watched David from a distance.
That is kind of creepy.
I know, super creepy. And the fact that they were able to do it so successfully. But I know in my heart, I'd be able to be watched from a distance and totally not know. I am not observant that way.
I do it all the time. You've never seen it.
I see your blonde hair flying around the corner. Hey, that looks like, oh, it couldn't be.
Yeah, could have been any one of my relatives. But none of them are that creepy.
Anyway, so David is alive and well, but Eastlake investigators don't want him to know there's a threat against him yet, hence the distance watching. They wanted to set a trap for Christine and Al. So after Patrick was able to convince Christine and her dad, Al, to hire Vinny the hitman, the local biker with mob ties.
On the DL.
Exactly. They now need to find someone to cast in the role of Vinny the hitman. So what's funny, Kathy, is the person that they chose was Eastlake detective Christopher Bowersox, who was a totally clean-cut guy. So they roughed him up a little bit, or maybe roughed up his looks. Like, I can just imagine a ratty Harley Davidson t-shirt, jeans, boots. They probably told him not to shave for a week and it made him freak out.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe they made him a little stinky, put a leather jacket on him. I don't know. Anyway, they turned him into Vinny the hitman who had mob ties. So detectives now need proof that David was killed. And of course, they need to tell David himself.
Yeah, there's only one way to get that.
Hey, don't mind us. So anyway, it was the Gwinnett County Police who take a letter from the Eastlake Police to David's home to break the news that there was a price on David's head. And that's when they found out he'd gone to Florida for business. So, of course, they're like, hey, Lonnie, the new Mrs. Metter, I just want to give you a heads up on something. Someone's trying to kill your husband.
But I'm sure it's fine. Don't worry about it.
But it's all going to be okay.
Exactly. We got a plan.
Right. We got a plan.
and a guy who's a little stinky.
Anyway, so of course she freaks out and immediately calls.
How women are.
Yeah, exactly. Immediately calls her husband David and tells him the entire shocking story. And not even David could believe it. Like, he knew Christine hated his guts, but even he had a hard time believing that she could put a hit out on him.
Well, he's the father of her children.
Exactly.
Why would you deprive your children of that?
Right.
Selfish whore.
That's probably exactly what was going through his mind. And he couldn't believe his ex-wife hated him so much. But it became even more real when a detective called David in Florida and told him, hey, David, we know you're in the loop now. And now we have to stage your death. So what they said was like, okay, listen, you need to lie down on the bed and you need your head at a very particular angle. And so they described with specificity how they wanted him to look. His eyes were open and just very specific. Please take these pictures for us. So he sends a ton of pictures to the Gwinnett County Police in Georgia. So they had a CSI tech who could make it look like David had been shot in the head.
Photoshop's a beautiful thing.
Photoshop is a beautiful thing. So anyway, this tech photoshopped a fake gunshot wound and blood spatter in the picture. So now, Hitman Vinny had proof to show Christine and Al.
Now, here's the funny thing. So on the State Line episode, I did see the picture that Vinny had given.
Did it look
Christine
good?
In a bad way, but it was awesome because he, like when you see sometimes murder scenes, like and the eyes are open, his eyes were totally like wide open and kind of almost bugged out, like,
oh, wow.
So he was on his back, his shoulders were kind of tilted a little bit and his head was on the bed.
Meaning like his head was tilted to one side significantly.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then the shot was on his left temple. And it wasn't a tremendous amount of blood, which, we always think because we see it in the movies, it's going to be everywhere. But it was like there was blood around the wound, but then there was like a trickle that went down his cheek and then a trickle that went down the other side. It was very interesting.
Very morbid. Very morbid.
Very morbid.
Yeah.
But fascinating.
Yeah.
Says the true crime podcaster.
Exactly.
So fast forward to Christine and Al being arrested and sitting in the interview room, either demanding an attorney or feigning innocence. The detectives at this point, Kath, they had no time for their nonsense. They were like, you know what? We've got you guys dead to rights. So Al and Christine were both charged with conspiracy to commit murder. And Kath, this is interesting. Al pled guilty and said, look, Christine had nothing to do with this at all. I did everything. She was just in the wrong place at the wrong time when the cops swarmed in and made the arrest. She knew nothing about this. You got to drop the charges. So in February of 2012, and this is just 7 months after conspiring to kill the father of his grandchildren, Al was sentenced to 9 years in prison. But the prosecutors were like, look, we have enough evidence against Christine that we know not only was she involved in the plot to kill her ex-husband, she was intimately involved in this plot to kill her husband.
So when her dad asked to drop the charges, they were like, nay, nay, fair maiden.
That was exactly what they said. It was so weird. It was in the court records.
It was on that 2020 video.
Dateline,
whatever.
But it was also in the court records. It was crazy.
Nay, nay, fair maiden.
But anyway, so Christine is like, okay, I'm not guilty. Let's bring it to the jury. Let's see what they have to say. Now, I'm not sure if she wasn't aware of all the audio recordings they had of her involvement.
Trust me, they were aware.
But basically, that's what the prosecution did. Not only did David testify, but then they played all of this audio, and it made it very obvious that the now 41-year-old Christine was in fact deeply involved in the attempt to kill the father of her children. After just a few hours, the jury found her guilty. So in February 2012, and Kath, this was just a couple of weeks after her dad was sentenced, the judge in Christine's case handed down the maximum possible prison term. 10 years in prison, followed by 5 years of probation. And the judge was like, look, I'm giving you this sentence because you have an appalling lack of remorse and you caused severe psychological harm not only to your ex-husband, but to your 4 daughters. And you had an active role in pulling your elderly father into this murder plot.
So Al died in prison in 2018, 6 years after being sentenced, and Christine was released from state prison in March of 2021 and was under parole supervision until March of this year, 2026. And as of 2022, which is the last update we were able to find, David Metter is still married to Lonnie, and she adopted his 4 girls after Christine's parental rights were severed. He continues to be successful in business, and despite the fact that his daughters missed their mother and had extremely conflicting emotions about the whole experience, they appeared happy and healthy.
So in a few of our last episodes, as you know, we included a story that just didn't get included in the episode itself. But this time, we have bloopers from this episode. Hope you enjoy.
Eastlake offers close proximity to Lake Erie and the Chagrin River, otherwise known as the Embarrassed River.
Speaking of embarrassment, though, among the 4 notable people in Eastlake listed in Wikipedia, one is a serial rapist and murderer, and the other is an identity thief.
Oh, good times.
He also joined a group on Chatbook.
Otherwise known as Face Chat.
I was looking at the word chat as I said it and realized I hadn't said it.
That is so funny. Anyway, Eastlake is also known for kayaking, boating, boat ramps. What the?
Just boating's good. I don't know. I copied and pasted it out of their city's history.
Boating ramps. Yeah. Eastlake is known for boating ramps. That is hysterical.
They're spectacular, Kathy.
They have the nicest boating ramps of any state.
I mean, Bass Lake would be put to shame.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Cutting and pasting is a sin.
I like how we actually review these things and then we manage to, when we're recording,
we should have already caught.
How the did we keep boating ramps in? Okay, hold on.
How did I write it? And then you totally was like, boating ramps. Hey, that's Kathy wrote it.
Right.
I'd do the same thing.
Oh my God, that's hysterical. Okay.
And the high school.
You're just laughing at you're recording and you're on the wrong page and you're just
No, I actually
it.
wasn't. I was on the right page, but I was tired of that page, so I turned it.
You're like, memorize it because I want to turn the page.
Exactly. Now, Kath, Vince had proof that David had been killed.
I like how you call him Vince. We've been calling him Vinny. Do you want to call him Vincent?
Yes, I would. Thank you. Mr. Vincent, if I may.
Right.
He actually sounds like a hairdresser from the 70s.
Some guy with a big old perm.
Exactly. I was thinking pompadour, but perm works. Is he wearing dolphin shorts as he does this?
I can only hope.
Oh, I can hope not. I'm blind.
So they're now all four at the back of the station, and everybody in the back of the station. So now all four. Oh my God. It's not that.
Okay. It's like the back of the bus. Okay. Sorry,
Okay.
go ahead.
All right.
So when Al and Christine arrived in their own car, Vinny
What?
was
Stop.
Okay, stop
Don't
it.
say
Okay.
that.
When you're just changing it.
Your old dude had a blue four-door sedan.
And it was old and ugly. And it had this one scratch on the side. They don't know how they got it. When Al and Christina bleh. Okay, start again. It always makes you laugh when I hear myself do that. I don't know where that comes from. I know he's a former cop.
Right. Is he packing heat?
Exactly.
Why is he sitting behind me?
Or does he have a gun?
Freaks me out. Or does he have a gun?
Say, why is he sitting behind me? This freaks me out. Sorry.
No. Kathy, that's super funny. We have to keep it in. Okay. We have to keep it in.
Okay.
Oh my God.
We're just being stupid at this point. 4 weeks, and we're like,
I know. Look at how it's been 4 weeks. So we've
even since we've talked.
I know.
mean, like,
it's like we
didn't get to talk at Best
It's
Lake.
like we've all. Anyway, whatever. Al talking to one of the detectives. Al. Detectives
with a
now
K.
has 17
And
I'm Kathy with a C.
And this is Killer Destination.
Okay. Today's destination is East Lake, Ohio. With a population of